Hello everybody and welcome to the very first episode of Run It Back, where we're going to be, in hindsight, looking at a draft of murders at Karlov Manor. It is opening day and this is the very first draft that I've done, so we'll go ahead and dive right in. Alright, looking at pack 1, I saw a couple of good white cards I thought were really good. We have the Steam Core Scholar as the rare, which obviously was a pretty good one. But then I also noticed the Case File Auditor, which seemed like it was a good card as well, generating some card advantage. Noticed the Shock here off to the right, and then also the Morph at the bottom, the Granite Witness. After debating a little bit, noticing that there were 4 detectives in the opening pack, I took the rare detective, thinking that we might be able to wheel some. Looking at pick 2, I had a detective after picking the first one, and I was instantly drawn to the Case of the Pilfered Proof, because that is definitely something you want as you're in blue-white detectives. Of course, you're also taking a look at the rare, which is a red-green card, excuse me, and I didn't think I wanted to go into 3 colors right away. The red case would have been particularly good if we had wheeled maybe the other case detective, and then there were a couple other detectives around, so we might get those on the wheel. In this case, we picked the Case of the Pilfered. Moving into pick 3, the first thing I saw was 2 Sanctuary Walls, and I don't think I want either of them. You'll also notice the Metal Spinner's Puzzle Knot, but of course there's a detective at rare, and it seemed like a pretty good one. Now, he wasn't really interested in blue-black detectives, I think, so you take a look at some of the white cards, or maybe the ability to splash. Dogwalker also seems very good, but we're here to play rares, so let's go ahead and just take the rare and Homicide Investigator, meaning that we'll have 2 detectives and a card that cares about detectives. Pick 4 is where things got a little interesting. I noticed another detective, but this one in blue-green. I did not want to go into our 4th color. There's a couple of the green cards that are interesting, but this Curious Inquiry sort of gives me a little bit of a curiosity vibes, and clues are definitely a big theme. We had the Sanguine Survivor, and then of course the other blue 2-drop detective. Cease and Desist could be played for all green, or also could be played for no green, so that was something. But all in all, I think we wanted to forego the removal spell and be a little aggressive, and here we ended up taking Curious Inquiry. Moving on to pick number 5, Ghostly Prison was a fun list card, and Eliminating the Impossible definitely seemed like it was going to be okay, and I would take this in certain packs, but Curious Cadaver, a zombie detective that also works well with clues, I think is, at the end of the day, where you really want to be. It's something that I didn't really want to, going in right away, go into blue-black, but so far, we've got 4 out of 5 picks that all seem relatively strong. One of the things that worked particularly well was Curious Inquiry, bringing back the Cadaver Awesome. Now, in pick 6, we saw Drag the Canal in Case of the Gorgon's Kiss, plus another bunch of blue and black cards, so this made me feel really confident that we were in the right lane. Picking up the rare card that worked well, it is a detective, it does investigate. It was exactly the sort of thing that we wanted if we're going to be going into blue-black, and so, easy pick. Looking at pick 7, there's a big rare here in Repeat the Crime, Reenact the Crime. But I think this uncommon Mind Control, Coerced to Kill, is going to be better. It's going to be easily castable, easier to cast, and just more impactful on the board. There's just too many hoops to make Reenact the Crime. Looking at pick 8, right before the wheel, I wasn't a big fan of Sudden Setback. It was just too reactive or too expensive. Jaded Analyst is fine, just I don't think we were enabling enough. And so we actually decided here to take the Gadget Technician to morph, or disguise, for blue-blue, making it something we should be able to flip up relatively consistently. We did see the Case File Auditor wheel, so that was something we could have taken, but the Granite Witness is now currently in our colors, and we've all but abandoned white. It is certainly something we could look at, but blue-black is exactly where we want to be at. Taking a look at pick 10, we saw a white card, we see a blue card, a couple of green ones. We're going to take the blue card. At this point, I'm not really that interested in playing many of these cards, but we're going to continue to send signals that green might be open, or that white may be open. We did see the Metal Spitter's Puzzle Knot, but we got a sweet pickup in Gravestone Strider. I think this is something almost every deck wants at least one of, and there's definitely decks that want more than one. This also makes me feel a lot more comfortable playing either of these cards here. We take the Cease and Desist as a reasonable sideboard card since we're playing best of 3. Bubble Smuggler, great pick 13, moving in. Now, Pack 2, pick 1, we see it Connecting the Dots, which is a great card, but not really where we're going to be at. Another case of the Pilfered Proof if we wanted to go back into blue-white. And then, of course, Persuasive Interrogators, which is a big top end for clues. We see the Fairy Snoop, and then I'm also keeping my eye on the Private Eye over there on the left. If that wheels, I might go back into blue-white. We do take the Persuasive Interrogators because it's a big body, and we're rewarded with a case of the Stashed Skeleton, a great card, early drop that is very aggressive, and then a Demonic Tutor later in the game. Looking into Pack 2, pick 3, I'm instantly taking a look at the rare, but I don't think we really want to be in a heavy white, and so I take a look at this Mistway Spy, and I read it originally here as a flying man with disguise, and then it can make a singleton clue. But what I didn't realize then, and I realized after playing the games, that when you flip it up, it's each creature that deals damage that's going to end up making a clue, and it was significantly better. I'm so glad I ended up taking it, even though I was considering maybe not. And this is where I wasn't that interested in this pick. There's a couple cards here that were okay. I ended up taking the Benthic Criminologists, and I'm glad I did because 4/5 was kind of big. It was kind of big. There was a lot of X2s, X3s, 3 powers, 4 powers. 5 toughness seems like it's going to be kind of big in this format. With the exception of Murders and Galvanizes, there's a lot of things that do with, 2, 3 toughness creatures. 5 toughness is a lot. I did take this Lost in the Maze. I was a little low on it at the time. I didn't think it was all that good, but I ended up taking this Lost in the Maze because it was rare and I wanted to play with it. It showed out. Lost in the Maze from this singleton draft has now turned me into thinking it is at least a 3 or 4 out of 5 rather than the 2 that I thought it was. The Hexproof was relevant. The tapping of a bunch of creatures was relevant. It was overall awesome. I saw a late shadowy backstreet here, which I thought was awesome, which might mean that if we end up wheeling that Private Eye from Pack 1, we might be able to splash a little bit of white here. It was already good with the Granite Witness. The case is exactly what we want in Detectives, but then if we end up getting something a little bit better in either Pack 2 on the wheel or Pack 3 as we open it up, it was great. Now that we also have the Gravestone Strider here, I looked at Reenact the Crime and I thought, sure, why not? We passed one. There's not a whole lot else I want in here, so let's go ahead and pick it up. Continuing on down the wheel, I wasn't that interested in another gadget technician, and I saw this Projector Inspector, and is a detective. We have detectives. It's a 3/2, which I don't love, but it definitely was a perfectly fine pickup. I think if my deck is playing that, I'm not unhappy about it, but I'm certainly not thrilled. So we're going to hope to, as we continue on the draft, try to replace that with a higher quality creature. As pick 9 rolls in, we did not wheel the Private Eye, which means that somebody else is likely going to be in either white, blue, or blue-white. So we just took our Fairy Snoop, happy about it. It ended up playing a very good role in the draft with Curious Inquiry, making it a 2/5. And then once I saw that that didn't wheel, we cut the white cards. We weren't going to play them. Notably, we kept the Granite Witness in because that unmorphs for a blue-blue, which is great. I felt our card was a little high here. But overall, I thought that we were doing okay. And then I also took a look at these 2 lands. Public Thoroughfare, I think, is exactly what you want in 3 colors or more. Our Escape Tunnel played particularly well, and I was really happy with the ability to sort of Evolving Wilds, or maybe get in for 2 damage to sort of go through some of the blockers that might be around. We did see the Officious Interrogation come back, picked it up just for the old wild card. And then as we sort of look through here, we're not playing any of the rest of these cards in Pack 2. Moving on to Pack 3, I took a look at Murder instantly, but also Exit Specialist, which is a blue detective early on. Bounce another creature, great tempo play. We also took a look at Push Pull as something we could cast for all black cards. But you don't turn down Murder. Murder's a great card. We're going to continue on taking those sorts of cards. As we open up our Pack 3 pick 2, I looked at the black card over here. I looked at the rare, and this is sort of the new Villainous Wealth. I wasn't overly impressed with how my opponent played it at pre-release. So Slice from the Shadow, an uncounterable kill spell, deals very well with more of Sun turn 3, also ends up being later in the game a bit of a blowout if need be. And I'm glad I picked it up. Of course, we have sort of a dud rare here in the ley line, and a lot of reasonable red cards. I took a look at this Clandestine Meddler, and it didn't seem like what we wanted to be doing. So looking at this Crime Stopper sprite, it's a detective, it's a flyer, it happens to maybe be a Frost Lynx. We're going to pick it up. It was great. I looked at the Living Conundrum right away, and I didn't think that was where we wanted to be at. I also looked at both the Cold Case Cracker, but seeing a Thinking Cap, I think I want one, maybe two in all of my detective decks, as it's just so efficient. And double checking our detective count, we were at 10. So great pickup there in pack 3, pick 3. As we roll on to pick 5, excuse me, that was pack 3, pick 4. To roll on to pick 5, I didn't really need any more creatures, so we wanted to keep our creatures alive, and Bubble Smuggler really wasn't really what I want to be at anyway. So Faith Light was a great pickup, a little bit of protection. It ended up being relevant in game 3 as we were able to take our Benthic Criminologist of 4/5 and fly over for lethal. Long Goodbye was awesome. A pick 6 was great. Soul Innervation looked good as well, but Uncounterable Victimize, this was exactly what we wanted to be in. It felt like we were really in the right lane with a couple of these Drag the Canals, Long Goodbye. You know, there was some late picks that really made it seem like we were in the right spot. Saw another setback, wasn't really thrilled with that. Another Benthic Criminologist, wasn't really thrilled with that. Cerebral Confiscation is okay. I had somebody play one against me, and it was good. It wasn't phenomenal. So we just picked it up for the sideboard in case it seemed to be necessary later on. Seeing the Fuss and Bother seemed like a very good one. But I was a little concerned that we would never be able to cast the Fuss, so we picked up the Crocodile. But wheeling this push-pull, this was particularly good. It actually ended up winning us a game as pull, where we were able to pull back one of my opponent's 7-mana spiders that distribute some counters. Finishing up the draft, I don't think we really picked up anything here. We had to cut, I believe, 3 cards out of the deck, and if I remember correctly, well, we'll see. We'll see here in just a moment. Great. Now that the draft was done, we're going to take a look at the last 3 cards that we cut. I felt like of course, the Mountain and Plains aren't necessary, even though Arena wants to put them in. Get our Disguises on 3. This Hotshot Investigators I think is going to be fine, but it was a little bit expensive, and I think we ended up cutting it here just because it's 6 mana, and I wanted to play the Persuasive Interrogators. I could definitely see Hotshot Investigators being a better card, but I wanted to play the Persuasive Interrogators, and the 5/6 body really seemed relevant. I then started to sort of pull out a couple of things that the Interrogators worked with, because I wanted to see how many clues we were going to make. And although I don't have that many clues in the deck, the Curious Inquiry did a lot of heavy lifting. I believe there was one game where I made 4 clues off of playing Mistway Spy into Curious Inquiry on 2, and it worked out very, very well. You can see me just sort of mousing over all the cards, seeing which ones we really want. Eventually we kind of say, Bubble Smuggler's a fine card, but not exactly what we want in this deck. It's not a detective, and I don't think we're paying 6 mana to undisguise it. So that means that we live on one last cut. It could be Reenact the Crime. I ended up playing the Reenact the Crime just because it was a rare, and I wanted to see how it played. Overall, we never really cast it. Nothing all that exciting, but we ended up with the Projector Inspector as something that we weren't really that interested in. That is the rest of the draft. Happy to report we did a full 3-0 here. We got the full wins, 6 packs, and of course 2 of the tokens. And we really appreciate you guys for watching. Thanks so much. We will see you next time.